You know, there's something quite peculiar about the way we encounter certain people in our lives. Have you ever noticed that peculiar sensation when someone enters your life, and suddenly, everything you thought you knew about yourself begins to unravel? It's as if the universe conspires to send us precisely the person we need to wake us up. This person arrives, not when we want them, but exactly when we need them. And the curious thing is that we often resist them the most. It's almost as though the deeper the sleep of our consciousness, the more forceful the knock must be to rouse us from our slumber. This pattern appears throughout human experience, yet we rarely recognize it for what it truly is. We think we're seeking people who comfort us, who validate our existing ideas about ourselves and the world. But what if the most important encounters are actually with those who disturb our comfortable illusions? You see, we live most of our lives caught in what Eastern philosophers call Maya, the grand illusion. We believe we are separate entities, isolated consciousness trapped in skin-encapsulated egos, desperately trying to connect with other separate beings. And from this fundamental misunderstanding springs all our suffering. The Buddha understood this when he identified attachment as the root of suffering. But what exactly are we attached to? Not merely possessions or relationships or outcomes, though certainly these too. More fundamentally, we're attached to our idea of who we are. We cling desperately to this constructed self, this story we tell about me and my life. We defend it against all threats. We nourish it with selective attention. We validate it through carefully curated relationships. This attachment to self becomes the most pervasive source of our suffering. And yet paradoxically, this self we're so desperately trying to preserve doesn't actually exist in the way we think it does. Consider for a moment what you mean when you say I or me. Is it your body? But your body is constantly changing. Cells dying and being replaced. Systems in perpetual flux. Is it your thoughts? But thoughts arise and dissolve like clouds in the sky. Where do they come from? And where do they go? Is it your emotions? But emotions are like weather patterns passing through. Sometimes stormy, sometimes clear. So what exactly is this self that we're so convinced is real? I want to pause here and invite you to reflect on this question. Have you ever had an encounter with someone who fundamentally challenged your sense of who you are? Not in a superficial way, but in a way that cut straight to your core? What was that experience like? And how did you respond? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's continue our exploration. In our daily lives, we experience this illusion of separate selfhood as utterly convincing. We wake up each morning as the same person who went to sleep the night before. We have jobs and relationships and possessions that seem to confirm our existence as discrete individuals. We have memories that create the impression of a continuous biographical narrative, and the society around us reinforces this illusion at every turn. We're given names and identification numbers. We're asked about our preferences and opinions. We're held accountable for our actions. The entire structure of modern life conspires to convince us that we are indeed separate selves. Even our language betrays this assumption. We say, I am thinking, as if there were an I, separate from the thinking. But is there a thinker apart from thoughts? We say, I feel sad, as if there were an I, experiencing sadness. But is there an experiencer separate from the experience? This isn't merely philosophical wordplay. It points to the fundamental paradox at the heart of our existence. The separate self is simultaneously the most obvious feature of our experience and the most elusive upon closer examination. It's both intensely real and utterly illusory. And this brings us back to that person the universe sends when we're caught in this dream of separation, sleepwalking through life, convinced of our isolated existence. The universe has a remarkable way of sending us precisely the person who will challenge this illusion. Sometimes they appear as lovers who show us parts of ourselves we've kept hidden even from our own awareness. Sometimes they're teachers who expand our understanding beyond previous limitations. Sometimes they're adversaries who trigger our deepest wounds and force us to confront our shadows. But here's what's fascinating. The identity of this person matters far less than the function they serve in our awakening. Because this person is not merely another separate individual interacting with our separate self. Rather, they are the universe itself, taking form to communicate with us. Now, there's a profound paradox here, which is that from one perspective, there's no separate you for the universe to wake up. And yet, from another perspective, the awakening is absolutely necessary. It's rather like waking up from a dream. The person you believed yourself to be in the dream wasn't real in an absolute sense. Yet the awakening from that dream identity is genuinely transformative. When we look deeper at the nature of consciousness, we begin to see that what we call my consciousness and what we call the universe are not two separate things. Consider this. Everything you experience, every sight, sound, sensation, thought, emotion, appears within your awareness. The entire universe as you know it exists within your consciousness. And yet paradoxically, your consciousness itself arises from and within the universe. Your brain, body, and mind are products of cosmic and biological evolution, inseparable from the totality of existence. So which is it? Is consciousness within the universe? Or is the universe within consciousness? The answer, from the non-dual perspective of Eastern wisdom, is that these are not opposing views, but complementary descriptions of a reality that transcends such distinctions. Consciousness and universe are not two separate things, but different aspects of the same indivisible reality. This is what the great Advaita Vedanta teacher Ramana Maharshi meant when he said that the universe exists neither within nor without. It's what Zen points to with its teaching that form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. When we begin to glimpse this truth, even momentarily, it revolutionizes our understanding of what it means to wake up. Because if consciousness and universe are not separate, then in a very real sense, the universe is sending itself to wake itself up. That person who enters your life and catalyzes profound transformation is not other than you. They are another expression of the same consciousness that animates your being. This understanding reveals the deeper meaning behind many spiritual teachings. When Jesus says, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," it's not merely ethical guidance, but a statement of metaphysical fact. Your neighbor is yourself, in a very real and non-metaphorical sense. Similarly, when Buddhist teachings emphasize compassion for all beings, they're not merely advocating kindness, but pointing to the truth that all beings are expressions of the same undivided awareness. I invite you to pause with me for a moment and consider the journey we're on together. This channel is dedicated to exploring these profound dimensions of consciousness, these ancient truths that remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. If you're resonating with these ideas, I encourage you to subscribe and join our community of seekers. In future videos, we'll continue to explore different facets of this awakening journey. Now, let's return to our contemplation of this mysterious person the universe sends to wake us up. As we deepen our understanding, we begin to see that apparent opposites are actually interdependent polarities. The person who brings us greatest joy may also bring us greatest sorrow. The relationship that feels most secure may also trigger our deepest insecurities. The teacher who seems most enlightened may also reflect back our most profound confusion. This is because genuine awakening isn't about eliminating half of these polarities and clinging to the other half. It's about recognizing that these apparent opposites arise together as complementary aspects of an undivided whole. Consider the wave in the ocean. From the perspective of the wave, there's constant change, rising and falling, building and dissolving. But from the perspective of the ocean, nothing is actually happening. The water isn't going anywhere. It's simply changing form. Are you the wave? Or are you the ocean? The truth is that you're both. Simultaneously. As a human being, with a particular biography and personality, you're a unique wave, with your own characteristics and dynamics. But as consciousness itself, you're the boundless ocean, from which all waves arise, and to which they return. And that person the universe sends to wake you up, they're another wave, arising from the same ocean. Their purpose is not to improve your wave nature, to make your particular wave bigger or better or more stable. Their purpose is to help you recognize that you are the ocean itself. This recognition doesn't eliminate your individuality. The wave doesn't disappear when it recognizes itself as water. Rather, the wave continues its natural movement, but without the anxiety that comes from forgetting its true nature. So what happens when you meet this person who catalyzes your awakening? Initially, there's often resistance. The ego self feels threatened by this encounter with its own dissolution. It may respond with fear, anger, or intense attraction. It may try to escape or to possess. This resistance is natural and even necessary. As the Zen saying goes, no resistance, no awakening. The very tension between holding on and letting go creates the conditions for breakthrough. But if we can stay present with the discomfort of this encounter, something remarkable begins to happen. The boundaries between self and other start to soften and dissolve. We begin to recognize that what we've been seeking in the other person is actually a reflection of what we already are. And paradoxically, as we release our grip on maintaining separation, we discover a deeper intimacy than was possible from the position of separate selfhood. This is the great mystery at the heart of all authentic spirituality, that what we are seeking is what we already are, and that the apparent other who helps us realize this is not truly other at all. I understand that this may sound abstract or esoteric, so let me bring it down to earth. Each of us has encountered people who have profoundly impacted our lives. Perhaps it was a parent whose approval or criticism shaped your sense of self-worth, or a teacher who saw potential in you that you couldn't yet see, or a lover whose presence made you feel truly alive, or an adversary whose opposition forced you to define yourself. What if all of these encounters Were the universe sending you different messengers with the same essential message? What if each relationship was designed to wake you up to your true nature? From this perspective, even the most painful relationships take on new meaning. The person who broke your heart was helping to break open your identification with a limited self. The parent who failed you was showing you that true security can't be found in external circumstances. This doesn't mean we should seek out suffering or remain in harmful situations. Not at all. But it does suggest that even our wounds can be portals to greater wholeness. I want to acknowledge that this journey isn't always easy. The process of awakening can be disorienting, even terrifying at times. When the foundations of your identity begin to shift and dissolve, it can feel like everything is falling apart. And in a sense, it is. The separate self that you've spent a lifetime constructing and defending is indeed dissolving. But what's revealed in its absence is far more vast and luminous than anything that's lost. It's like being a wave that has spent its entire existence trying to perfect its waveform, only to discover that it's actually the entire ocean. Yes, the wave identity dissolves, but what's gained is infinitely greater. I want to emphasize that this awakening is not about escaping from the world or transcending human experience. It's about being fully present within the flow of life, but without the suffering that comes from misidentification. When you recognize yourself as both wave and ocean simultaneously, you can dance your unique pattern with perfect freedom and joy, knowing that beneath the ever-changing surface, you are the changeless depth. This recognition transforms how you relate to that person the universe has sent. You no longer need them to complete you, or validate you, or rescue you. You can simply appreciate the unique role they play in your unfolding, and you begin to recognize that just as the universe has sent this person to wake you up, you too are being sent to wake others up. This is the great cosmic game of hide and seek. Consciousness conceals itself in myriad forms, only to delight in its own rediscovery. So when you meet that person who turns your world upside down, who challenges everything you thought you knew, who awakens you to greater dimensions of being, remember this: they are not separate from you. They are another wave in your ocean. They are the universe taking form to remind you of what you've always been. And in that recognition, you're finally free to truly love them, not from need or attachment or projection, but from the boundless wellspring of your shared essence. This is what the mystics mean when they speak of loving without an object. It's not that you don't love specific people. It's that you recognize that in loving them, you're loving your own deeper nature. As the poet Rumi said, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. The universe sends you one person to wake you up, but that person is not bringing you anything you don't already possess. They're simply holding up a mirror so you can recognize your own infinite nature. And in that recognition, paradoxically, you discover that there never was a separate you to wake up. There is only the one consciousness playing at separation in order to know itself through relationship. So the next time you encounter someone who deeply moves you, or challenges you, or awakens you, remember, this is the universe sending you one person to wake you up. And that person is your own deeper self coming home.